Yeah, I think we're live here. Doug Shane here at Banks17 Heat Map Fantasy Sports. This is our NFL live show, but a little bit early today. Figure we'll talk a little hockey for a couple minutes, show what the Heat Map is all about on the Heat Fantasy Sports, and this is it. This is what our Heat Map, the beginnings of our Heat Map, we're building it. But this is what the Heat Map looks like thus far. As example, hockey. We kick ass at hockey. No one does hockey. Only $99 a week, by the way, to get involved, to be a part of the team. You get all our content: hockey, football, baseball, basketball, soccer, college, NASCAR, MMA, PGA, all of it. I'm probably missing some sports. Cover it all. Soccer, I'm going to say soccer, we cover it all. EuroLeague, Brandon's doing some EuroLeague stuff. Good stuff. Anyway, under $4 a week, come check out my pinned tweet on Twitter at Banks17 for the link for that and join up for the team. So this is what our heat map looks like. Green is good, or blue is great, green is good, yellow is okay, red is not good. So what we do every day is we take this map, take a peek's poo at it, look at the teams that have a lot of blue and green, like the Winnipeg Jets today, like the New York Islanders today. Those are going to be probably our top stacks. I'm sure Sean's building that out right now as we speak. He comes up with the lines based on the data that I compile, or sometimes Topher comes up with the best lines to play. He's a freaking genius, by the way. Was on both Boston and Calgary 3, their third lines last night. Both of them had multiple goals. Huge. Comes with some value plays, other lines we like. He ranks his favorite lines. Topher then comes on over here, builds out his goalie math. He's working on that now. I think we actually have 2 sheets for today that I think Topher's working off the other one for today. But he goes in, tells us which goalies we like, which ones are playing above, and we just kick ass with it. Taking a peek at yesterday's, just pulling that up. I personally like Winnipeg and New Islanders today, stuff, and we'll see what Sean likes. Though I'm really interested to see how Sean's because we look at not just data, but we look at trend, not just the data that I put up there, but the trends, what playing good, what defensive lines we want to attack, and no one's playing it. The heat map is playing it. We're just playing full line stacks, and no one's playing full line stacks. You'll see right here yesterday. Just a big day for us. Ottawa 2 had a great. Boston 3 was ridiculous. Frederick ended up with 2 goals. All had a couple of assists. Really strong game from them. I'll say that. This is the most professional thing ever. Okay. He was on Boston yesterday, and you could see that he not just tells you who he likes, but kind of why we like him. And they popped a couple of goals. That was huge for us. Pittsburgh was good. Like, the data really loved Pittsburgh, but it ended up being Pittsburgh 2, the Malkin line, that ended up kicking butt. The Pittsburgh one came through at the end. Edmonton 1, just monster. They had like 4 goals yesterday. I did an Edmonton Boston stack and ended up doing pretty well. Unfortunately, I just did it in the $3, and so it didn't win, but came in top, I don't know, 20, 25, something like that. Ended up, 7x return on money. Calgary 3, another big one. Ruzicka had, I think, 2 goals. Coleman with some assists. Like, they were really strong, real strong. Did really well with that lineup. Yeah, it was a good day for us, and this is just happening on a daily basis. And these are Sean's lines. They're coming up. He's coming up with it. He looks at. He's just a freaking genius. Other lines that he likes. All the value plays are here. Some, and then this is Topher's goalie math. Swayman didn't end up playing, but ended up being who was Halak was goal. He was fine. Jay Gallen didn't come through, but sometimes these are taken with a grain of salt. Kochkov was fine. Frank Hughes wasn't great, but we were playing the Boston side of this game anyway. Yeah, it was a good night. It ended up being a really good night for us. But this is what we get every single day for hockey. So just a little fun with the hockey. But let's talk here, right? We're here to talk football. So let's get on that. Let's get with the football, and we're talking cash game lineups. And here's where I'm at for cash right now. Not right now. I've got my cash lineup. I actually love my cash lineup this week. I'm going to play cash for the first time in a few weeks. I think I can beat the optimizers this week because I'm not going uber chalk. I've been pretty locked in on Austin Eckler from jump. I think Eckler is just, I don't know what his ownership's going to be this week. I don't think he's going to be the top owned running back. I don't think he'll be in the top 2 or 3, and he should be. He's just getting there on volume alone. Almost, even in the passing game, he's just getting there. Last week, he had 17 points just on volume in the passing game. Ended up throwing that touchdown in there. The 5 attempts kind of sucks, but Raiders are terrible against running backs, and Eckler is the entire offense for the Chargers. So I love Eckler. I'm using him in GPPs also as a stack with Herbert, but Eckler's the first guy that I really was like, all right, I'm locking him in. I don't really care. Now, earlier in the week, Jalen Warren was a potential play. He's not anymore with Najee Harris not carrying an injury designation, and is Zonovan Knight for the Jets. He's going to be pretty chalky this week, and I'm not a fan. I think Zonovan Knight. I had him early in the week. I had him as a guy that we should probably play, but I've kind of moved off him a little bit because what do we know about what this guy's going to do? James Robinson wasn't active last week. The only reason he got any playing time was because Michael Carter ended up getting hurt. So we don't know how that game plan is going to look this week now with Ty Johnson. I just think it's too muddled of a backfield. And when there are a lot of maybes, I don't like using them for cash. So I actually came off of Zonovan Knight in cash over here on DraftKings, even though he fits. But I think we can get an even better value play. We'll get to that in a minute. Also, I don't do Jets, and I absolutely want to play Garrett Wilson. I am going uber chalk with the receivers this week. I'm actually going to play 3 of the top 4 wide receivers in cash for my cash lineup. I'm just going 3 of the top 4 most owned receivers for my cash lineup this week. I don't see why we wouldn't. They're the 3 best plays, safest plays, so we're going there. I mean, Garrett Wilson's been great. His averages when Zach Wilson's not quarterback are phenomenal, averaging like 3 or more catches per game, like 40 more yards per game. He scored all his touchdowns when Zach Wilson's not quarterback. I mean, Mike White, Joe Flacco, I mean, I know it'll be White this week, but whoever it's been knows how to get him the ball. So we should definitely, and he's just too cheap at $5,300 against the Vikings defense that can be beat. Amon-Ra St. Brown's going to be the most widely rostered receiver this week, so no point in not going with him. The volume's too high. 8 targets like every single week. Like, he's a target hog. Yeah, the one week he got hurt. He had the 6 targets the week before that, but then other than that, 9, 12, 12, 10, 9, 11, 8, 10. I don't think Jameson Williams hurts him. I actually think Jameson Williams playing will help him. If Williams can stretch the field even a little bit, get any attention, St. Brown's just going to work better underneath. I mean, he's a, 7 catches, 90-yard kind of a guy, and that's just on volume. He's going to get you, over 2x. He gets in the end zone, gets over 100 yards, gets anything more than that. He's just a stone lock for me. For cash, he was one of the guys I wrote up. I'm using the Steelers defense. I think their defense is just a little disrespected right now. They do give up some points, but that's against Philly and Cincy. This is Atlanta. 2 or more sacks each of the last 4 weeks, 2 turnovers each of the last 3 weeks. TJ Watt coming back, huge difference for them. The problem I have with using Pittsburgh, though I'm still going to use them, is that you're not going to get a lot of volume out of them because Atlanta just doesn't throw the football. But Pittsburgh's vulnerability is in the passing game, so we may see more volume out of Atlanta than we're used to seeing. So I'm still going to ride the Steelers. They're just cheap at $2,600. I think they're a team. So those are the guys that I kind of locked in. And then, again, we had the Zonovan Knight conversation. I thought about using him, but I'm not. Trevor Lawrence was a guy I actually wrote up as one of my core plays against the Lions. Makes a lot of sense using him. He's going to be one of the most widely rostered players this week. And rightfully so, 20 or more fantasy points in 3 of the last 5 weeks. The volume's up there, 37 and 40 the last couple of weeks in terms of attempts, 5 touchdowns. I mean, he's there. He's fine. Lawrence is fine. Could be one of the, could do fine. He's going to be fine. But I also think because of the way optimizers are working, Lawrence is going to be a Lawrence, Eckler, St. Brown, Garrett Wilson type of a lineup is going to be really popular. And in cash, we don't mind that, but we've also found that you've kind of got to start getting perfect in cash. And I don't want to have to just pick one guy. And so I'm going to try to play around with my lineup just a little bit this week, so I don't have to just have that one guy. I'm going to have 3 or 4 guys who I think might be a little bit different, who can help me out. So I actually went up just $200 and I went to Geno Smith. He's done a lot of what Lawrence did, except he's done it for more weeks. He's at 19 or more points, 4 straight weeks, multiple touchdowns. And I mean, all but 2 games this year. He's been over 20 quite a bit this year. Good matchup against the Rams team that won of Aaron Donald. That given up, they're basically toast. They put Stafford on what's essentially season-ending IR. Team's done. And so I think Seattle can go in there and just do what he's been doing. 240, 250 yards, a couple of touchdowns, maybe 25 yards on the ground. And if Lawrence falters at all, Smith's not going to be there in cash. I'm going to move up the field. And if Lawrence plays fine, Smith's going to play. I mean, Smith should be okay. Again, 20 points. What's Lawrence's upside? He's not going to run Justin Fields like. So can he get to 30, 35 points just Trevor Lawrence? Yeah. But also, am I sure he's going to get there? No. And the likelihood of him getting there is small enough that pivoting to Geno to kind of win the ownership game if Lawrence does falter at all, or if they pivot to a running game, or if Detroit's defense comes to play a little bit, I think it's worth the trade-off in this case because it allows me to just get a little more different elsewhere in my lineup as well. And I think we need that this week. I think we, in cash, continue to need it. So I'm putting Geno in my lineup. My third wide receiver, I still want some exposure to Trevor Lawrence. And so it's going to either be Zay Jones or Christian Kirk. And for me right now, it's Kirk. Again, target volume, just like St. Brown, is there. We get a little bit of the shootout factor. I mean, the guy's had 6 or more targets in all but, 3 games this year? Like 9 or more targets in all but like 4 or 5 games. He's just been a volume hog. And against this Detroit defense, he should put up a decent game. And the thing about Kirk is he doesn't need to have – Lawrence doesn't need to have a great game for Christian Kirk to have a good game. We've seen it happen with Tua quite a bit this year for Miami. He'll put up 18 to 20 fantasy points, and Tyreek will put up 35. Kirk can go 7 catches, 100 yards, and a touchdown, and Lawrence can go 240, 2 touchdowns, and just not get there for you. Whereas Kirk, that's 26 points, and I'm very happy with 26 points out of Christian Kirk. Give me 24, give me 20, I'm a pretty happy camper. And I think he's just got that upside there. Even a game like this, 7 for 96 without a touchdown is 17. You get to that 100, now you're talking 20 points, and he gets there on volume alone. That's what I love about Kirk. So he's in, especially with Zay Jones banged up a little bit as well. The one place we're going to have to cut here is I think we have to have 2 punts here. And so there's a couple different ways we can go. I really wanted to use Travis Kelce in cash this week, but I don't think we can get there. I just think it's too difficult to spend up for Kelce, despite the fact that he has just been an absolute monster this year. He scored 20 points in all but like 4 games, and he really separates you from other lineups, particularly in head-to-heads and whatever else you're playing in tournaments when you're using him over anyone else because his upside is so great. But we can't afford him. I just don't see us being able to afford him this week. So I'm actually going all the way down. And I think it's just a binary option this week. It's going to be we're either looking at Travis Kelce spending all the way up, or we're going to go all the way down to Harrison Bryant. Good matchup against Houston. David Njoku is out. Even if he gets me this game right here, 8.1 points, 4 for 40 yards, 8 points on $2,700, that's hitting value. We need 7.1 points to get there, and he can absolutely get there. And if he doesn't, he shouldn't be killing us because of what we can do now with the rest of our lineup. Because we've been able to get Christian Kirk and St. Brown and Eckler and a decent QB in Geno. Like, I think we're pulling together a nice lineup. And the key person for me in this lineup, and this is where I'm looking at the Zonovan Knight. This is where my 1v1 is going to play out a little bit differently. Is instead of a 4,600 Zonovan Knight, I'm going all the way down to a $3,100 Sky Moore. I don't get the price on Sky Moore. He's not running a ton of snaps, but he's been wildly efficient in the snaps he's running. When he's on the field, he's getting targeted, and he's had 12 targets total the last 2 weeks, 5 receptions each of the last 2 weeks. If he gives us this game right here, this average, look at that. That average is over 9. That average is 9 points, over 9 points. He's averaging over 9 points. We need just over 9 points to hit value. He gets in the end zone. Now he's looking at 15 points. He has a little more depth on his targets. Ooh, now we can talk 12, 14, 18 points. It's there. Again, not going to kill you, but I'm getting a $1,500 discount for a guy who's just as big of a question mark as he's as big of a question mark as Zonovan Knight. And I think his workload could be just as solid. Kadarius Toney's out again. So why won't Sky Moore and what should be a shootout get us there? And that leaves us with multiple options as our RB2. We're not using Barkley because Washington's been just a terrible matchup for running backs. We've got Derrick Henry, Nick Chubb, Josh Jacobs. one of those guys gets involved in the passing game, two of those guys don't. Josh Jacobs has himself a fantastic matchup against the Chargers, as does Nick Chubb, and shockingly, so does Derrick Henry. Jacobs is at home. Jacobs is in the strong spot. Jacobs is the guy I'm going with. I'm not worried about the questionable tag. He had the questionable tag last weekend. He was fine. I'm not worried. Let me make sure. I don't remember leaving $400 over. So let's take a look. But we do have that opportunity. If we find out early for some reason that Josh Jacobs is going to be out, that helps us. We can make that pivot. If we don't find out about that, we can pivot down to Ken Walker. And we've got ourselves a guy that we don't necessarily love for cash, but we've got at least an option of a player we can put in there. We could go all the way down to Jeff Wilson and then upgrade Sky Moore if we needed to. So we do have pivots that we can make. Again, I'm just not sure. Did I really leave $400 over in this lineup? That's weird to me. Yep, I left $400 over. Look at me. So this is where I ended up in cash. I think there's a nice floor, and I really do like this lineup. I think just getting that double running back. I don't normally like to play running backs against each other, but that little bit of correlation between both pass catching running backs. And yes, Josh Jacobs is definitely what I would consider pass catching running back with target volume. I mean, he's basically a 4 target a game guy. He's gone under that number. Forget the first 2 weeks when they weren't using him right. He's gone under 4 targets once all year. Like, he's got 7-8 target upside. We saw what he could do last week. He's on a 20-point streak. When the guy gets 20 touches, he's very good. I don't see why we're not going to use him against a Chargers team that is not good against running backs. So as long as he's playing, we're in really good shape. He looks like Chris Rock. A young Chris Rock with some muscle. Chris Rock's running. No offense, Chris. Yeah, I think this also gives me one thing that I really want on this slate, which is minutes in the afternoon slate. You run Trevor Lawrence up here, Zonovan Knight over here, another high-end guy elsewhere. Like, you're going to have all 1 p.m. players, which is fine, but the prime games this week are in the 4 p.m. window with Seattle and the Rams, KC, Cincinnati, and the Chargers in Las Vegas. You've got some decent games early, like Tennessee, Philadelphia. I think that game could surprise. I think Cleveland, Houston's got intrigue simply because of the Deshaun Watson thing. The Jets in Minnesota could be okay. Jacksonville, Detroit should be a banger. So we've got games, but the games that are probably going to win people money are here. I don't want to go into the late slate with no PMR. So it's one of the things I've done is switching off from Lawrence to Geno. I think I've got a similar floor, similar if not higher upside, and I've got the afternoon time coming. Eckler, I was never not putting in. Jacobs, the time doesn't really affect me, but the fact that I actually like Jacobs better than Henry and Chubb this week, and the fact that he's playing the afternoon is great. Sky Moore, I don't care when he plays. Just 3,100 for his potential floor. Similar questions, $1,500 savings overnight just makes him the better play for me. And so that's where I'm at for cash this week. Haven't played cash, like I said, the last few weeks. I'm just tired of going up against optimizers and going up against 130 lineup trains of people in single entry, of people using the exact same lineup in their single entry double ups, but I'm playing a higher level. Instead of doing the normal $5 and $10 ones that I do, I'm doing a 25 and a 50 this week. And so those lineups tend to run less people, first of all, and I think people are not just going to run opto trains in those. And even if they are, I'm going against the opto trains. I went in and ran an opto this week to kind of see where they're going, and they're going with Lawrence, and Dalvin Cook showed up in the optos, which I don't love Dalvin Cook. That was an easy fade for me. Gutta let me know that David Montgomery is popping up in some of the optimizers he looks at. I'm not using David Montgomery this week, and so the only place that I'm really going super duper chalky is those receivers, because those were the guys I identified anyway with St. Brown, Wilson, and Kirk. I just think their target floor is too high. That's a 30-ish target floor from those 3 receivers, and that's what I want. With some ceiling. There's definite ceiling to those guys as well. So I don't mind eating that chalk because I'm coming off it. Jacobs, actually, based on what I've seen, had a higher number roster percentage than Eckler, but I don't think people are going to be combining them in cash. To me, the key for this lineup really is Geno Smith and Sky Moore. If they can outscore Trevor Lawrence and Zonovan Knight, then I'm in pretty good shape. And if the trio of Geno, Kirk, and Moore can outscore the trio of Lawrence, Zay Jones, who's slightly more rostered than Kirk, and Zonovan Knight, then I'm gonna cash easily, like very easily. And so that's really the 3v3 I've been looking at was Smith, Kirk, and Moore versus Lawrence, Zonovan Knight, and Zay Jones. Totally lost my train of thought there. Zay Jones. So I think that 3v3 is going to work out in my favor. I think it definitely could work out in my favor. I prefer the trio I have. I don't think I'm taking a huge risk here. I mean, Kirk above any of those players works. And really, Kirk and Moore over Zay Jones and Zonovan Knight. There's a nice floor with Zay Jones, but Kirk has got a similar, if not better, floor. And I just don't see how Zonovan Knight is safer at this point than Sky Moore. I don't see it. I really don't. The Jets can go out there and do some wacky stuff with their running backs. And here's the Zay Jones versus Kirk. Zay Jones outscored Kirk last week. I think that was a product of Baltimore's secondary becoming a little bit better, and so they were able to shut down Kirk a little bit more, even though he still got decent numbers. The target volume's there, but I mean, he's not a high ADOT guy, Zay Jones. He's definitely a more underneath guy, not a big touchdown scorer, only has one on the whole season. So, excuse me, I'm not really worried about Zay Jones versus Kirk. I think Kirk is by far the better player, and 80 out of 100 times is going to outscore Zay Jones in the situation. Again, Moore I think is just as risky as Zonovan Knight and could outscore him. And then Geno versus Lawrence, I think their range of outcomes is very similar, and their probability of busting or busting out are similar. And I like both of their matchups. Probably Lawrence is a little bit better. They're both on the road, but we've seen Detroit not give up a ton of points occasionally. We are live, pal. We've been live for about 21 minutes, but yep, I do like my We Are Live, pal. Thank you, Brandon. Run it solo for a couple more minutes. I know he does, Brandon. I know Zay Jones has a good matchup. Well, I know, but I just think Kirk has the higher ceiling to go along with the floor. And I just think we can get to him. And again, still eating chalk there. I do like Zay Jones in tournaments. I'm running him with Kirk and Lawrence in tournaments, or could use him as a run back on a Detroit stack. But I think overall, I feel like we're just safer with Kirk. All right. No Gutta yet at the moment. He's coming, but no Gutta yet. And so I'm going to do this solo. We're going to take a peeksy poo at any inactives. So you're going to have to bear with me on this one. Let's see. Titans, inactives, no one who matters. Let's see. Jets inactives. Zach Wilson inactive. Not a shocker there. Michael Carter's officially out. So therefore, you're either riding the Zonovan train or you're not. Again, I am in tournaments. I'm not in cash. I don't think we need him in cash. That's really what it is. We don't need him in cash. And so why do it? Especially when you get Sky Moore, who I think has just as much upside. Chase Young out for the Commanders, which is fine for the Giants. No, there's the Gutta. What's up, Gutta?
Hey, how we doing?
Big night in the city, huh?
Yep.
Just running through inactives right now. Jerry Jeudy active, and then we'll see what
we got.
We'll catch up. Highly unlikely Mixon plays, but obviously he's not an inactive today. Because not yet. He's not an inactive because it's too early. It's a late game. Jameson Williams active, as we thought. I like him. Antonio Gibson active. I still like Brian Robinson a little bit. Old Stonehands. He should be fine. Kenny Golladay inactive. Oh, so all those Giant stacks can suck it. Not that you're using Golladay.
Let's see. Yep. Njoku officially inactive as well.
Very good. Oh, you're just jumping right in. I love it.
Hey, yeah. I'm getting. I'm set up. I'm ready.
Let's see. All right, Marlon Humphrey and Kyle Hamilton are active. So if you were, planning on using that vaunted Broncos passing game, don't. Probably. Let's see. Brandon Cooks, we knew officially inactive. Rex Burkhead inactive. Probably a good thing for Damian Pierce, who I think is a really good tournament play. Love Pierce today in tournaments. Derek Stingley out.
I think Agunbowale has been getting some of the pass work. I think Burkhead already had kind of been phased out-ish. But yeah, I mean, Pierce.
I mean, if Pierce can't do it this week, we're we're in trouble, I think.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Eno Benjamin's actually active for the Texans, so maybe he gets some of the work instead of Pierce. And Amari Rogers active for the Texans. I don't think we're using him.
No.
But, we're reporting everything. We report everything. Yeah, it doesn't look like anything major is happening today. No surprise inactives. It's just sort of everything is expected morning. It looks like Fields is back, and it looks like Najee will end up playing, and the Zonovan Knight. Oh, the Zonovan Knight thing. We'll continue to talk about Zonovan Knight today. He is not in my cash lineup as I showed you. ATN active. Yeah, just nothing exciting here.
Yeah, there wasn't that much that I think we were kind of waiting for anyway.
What's that?
I said I don't think there was that much that we were kind of expecting from an active standpoint. I guess Mixon's the big one, but
I put him as out.
He still hasn't cleared, so he's gonna be out.
I did list him as out, even though he's not officially out, but I'm playing as if Mixon is out, so I'm just putting him there. So if he's not, I will change this so in case anyone will put expected.
Yeah,
because Joe Mixon, Cincinnati expected.
So I don't know if you touched on this or not, but does Mixon being out change anything for your cash with P. Ryan?
Not even a little.
Okay.
Nope. I can't. I don't know where I'd upgrade elsewhere, and it's not like P. Ryan is a free square. Like he's $6K if I'm not mistaken. Is that? Yeah, he's correct. $6K. Like Damian Pierce is cheaper, Pacheco's cheaper, Gus Edwards is cheaper, Brian Robinson is cheaper. There are other guys who are in similar spots that I'm not there. I'm not there on the P. Ryan thing. It doesn't change at all. I'm pretty locked in on this cash lineup. And the thing I was talking about was I don't think Zonovan Knight is such a sure thing. Like, we don't know what the Jets are going to do with James Robinson active now this week and Ty Johnson. I mean, Zonovan Knight got the work because Michael Carter got injured in game. We don't know what the game plan is going to be now with a full week. Now, I'm playing Zonovan Knight of the three of those running backs in tournaments, but I don't think he's so safe in cash that we should pass up on the $1,500 savings we get from using Sky Moore, who actually does have a role in this offense, in the Kansas City offense, 6 targets each of the last 2 weeks. I don't think their floor is that dissimilar for the risk. I'd rather save the $1,500. Could Knight have a higher ceiling? Probably. But Sky Moore is just as risky, and I'll take the $1,500 less and then get to use Christian Kirk over Zay Jones, get to Josh Jacobs as my second running back, and there is the contingency plan in place to use Ken Walker if I have to. And then I can play around with probably, I think I'm able to go up then. Maybe, I don't know. I can play around with that and go up to Herbert if I have to as my quarterback. And, Jacobs is out. You just go to Zamir White and upgrade elsewhere. Like, there are things I can do. I'm not really worried. I haven't made the contingencies because I know they're there, but I expect Jacobs to play. And using Jacobs and Eckler, I just think even though they're in the same game, they are in the same game. It makes a lot of sense to me. They're just both in great spots, catch a lot of passes. Neither team can defend running backs. So I'm pretty sure, and I'm just eating the chalk at receiver. Like, I'm eating at least the 3 receivers. Those are the 3 chalk guys, plus Zay Jones. And to me, it was a binary decision at tight end. It was Kelsey or Bryant. There was no in between. You're either spending all the way up or all the way down. There's no guy worth spending down anywhere else to spend up on, like from going to like Christian Kirk to Zay Jones. Like, what would I do with that savings from Harrison Bryant that I'm just not, I don't see a reason to do that. So this is kind of where I'm locked in. Like, I think this is a good lineup. I'm playing higher cash games. Normally I play 5 and 10, like a whole bunch of $5 and $10 ones. I'm just doing a 25 and a 50 this week and saying, let's see what happens. Hopefully running into less optimizer trains. And I think we can beat the opto. That's what it is. I think a running back, because I think Lawrence is going to be the opto quarterback. I think he's the quarterback that's going to pop the optos. Yeah. And so Geno Smith, similar floor, similar ceiling, equal chance of sucking this week. So I think we're in an okay spot there. Running back, I think Jacobs is popping the optos, but I'm not sure Eckler is, which is weird to me. But I've seen Dalvin Cook, David Montgomery, Zonovan Knight, like a whole bunch of these guys that I think were a little bit different there. Sky Moore definitely for me is not popping in optos, and I think he's a differentiator, especially people using Zonovan Knight or spending down at like Nico Collins, who's fine. I like Nico Collins in cash this week, but I just think we're different enough here that our upside, our floor is similar enough that if one of the chalk guys fails, we're in good shape to optimizers. And even if they don't fail, there's enough floor with these guys and enough ceiling that we could still beat the optos. I just feel as good about cash this week as I felt in about a month. Like I think we're in a good place.
I think at the running back, it's probably going to be a combination of probably Chubb, Montgomery, and Jacobs.
Yeah,
there because everybody
sets me apart.
In. Yeah, oh yeah, big time. I mean, and it's a great spot for Eckler. I mean, I've talked about it a couple of different times, but the Raiders basically are against running backs are like 50-50. Half the production's on the ground, half the production's on the air. And I mean, Eckler's a obviously monster part of this passing game, especially with Mike Williams out as well. So I mean, Eckler's going to get, Eckler should have one of his better games, I would think, given the matchup and where the Raiders really do struggle.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like he's got an 18-point floor, but he's got a 35-point ceiling, and so I think we're in a really good spot there. If he has even close to a ceiling game, we're going to differentiate ourselves above the David Montgomerys of the world, especially with Fields coming back. I've never enjoyed David Montgomery as chalk. I just don't. No, he may get there. No. He got there a few weeks ago, but he's not what I consider to be good chalk. He's just chalk. All right, we've talked enough about cash. I don't want to go over today, and I feel we have a lot to talk about. We'll start with the question from Brandon, or a comment. I'm running some shares of Watkins. Think everyone's going to be on A.J. Brown. Titans slot corner doesn't have the speed to contain Watkins. I have quite a bit of Quez Watkins today. As either a mini stack with Derrick Henry or as a secondary player in a Philadelphia stack. Your thoughts on Quez? And we'll just cover this game first. We'll just start about the Philly Tennessee game.
Yeah, I mean he's an okay option if you're looking in. Let's see, where's that game? There it is. Yeah, he's an okay option there. It's not I wouldn't say it as a 1v1 substitute over A.J. Brown. Like, people are playing Brown's more popular, so I'll go with Watkins for, that's not the type of trade-off. But he gets enough targets. No. He's always a deep threat. I mean, so Watkins is fine at that salary-saving spot type of thing. And, yeah, even as a secondary in a stack, yeah, it could definitely work.
He's seen his what I like about Quez and Devonta Smith too is both of them have seen their target and snap share, more so for Quez with the snap share rise since Dallas Goedert got hurt, and so I think they're getting a lot of that production from that because they're surely not getting it from the tight ends. They've got like no targets since Goddard got hurt, but more Devonta Smith running those routes, and then a little bit more Quez Watkins getting some more shots. Everyone's going to be on A.J. Brown in tournaments because of the factor of the revenge game factor, but I think Tennessee knows that too, and they've got a good enough defense. And it could just open up other players. How else are you playing this game? What else do you see in this game, tournament-wise, that you like?
The only really other thing I'm looking at is maybe Tennessee. If I do use a run back, I'm looking at either Burks or Westbrook-Akine, probably. I'm not really that thrilled about either one of them, but Westbrook-Akine may have a little more potential here because Gardner Johnson is out, so the slot is kind of open in the middle of the field as well. Burks has definitely been the key to their passing game since he's come back and gotten healthy, but I think he really can struggle today potentially just with the corners that Philly has and the way their defense plays. It could hurt Burks. So that's kind of it though. I mean, I'm gonna really just the way I play it, really just focus on the Philly side. And go from there. I know you mentioned using Derrick Henry, mini with Quez Watkins. I'm not as crazy about Henry. I know the Eagles have been run on a lot this year, but I mean they are getting they have upgraded their D tackle. The defensive line is getting a bit healthy. So I think you can start to see that change from where they've been, and also too, I mean. With the Titans being on the road and 4.5-point underdogs, and the Philly offense is good, and they're able to pass it a lot, and that's Tennessee's weakness. So I do think, I think there's a real high probability that Henry can get phased out pretty easily. I mean, again, Henry's always a wild card because any carry he can take 80 yards to the house, and that completely changes his output literally on one play. Unfortunately, too, Tennessee can be exploited through the air with running backs, but the Eagles just don't pass to their running backs. Like, unless they're going to strictly game plan for it because of the opponent, it just makes it very difficult. Like, I can't use, if Miles Sanders was getting 5 targets a week, I would love the guy in this spot, but it's just not happening. And Gainwell and Scott really aren't seeing any targets either. So it makes it difficult for something that can be really exploitable, that there's not really an avenue to use it.
I think that's where Devonta Smith comes in real handy this week. I like him a lot too. I think all 3 wide receivers, I'm playing a lot of them. I'm playing a lot more of this game than I probably admit, and I just think I like Derrick Henry as a pivot in tournaments only, but I like him as a pivot in tournaments off of chalkier like Jacobs, Chubb. The matchup works for me. But of course, you know what happens when I play Derrick Henry. It never turns out well. So we'll have to see what happens. Chicago, Green Bay. Are we liking this game for tournaments at all?
I do think Fields is in consideration, just because he's off the injury report. He practiced in full, so I mean, he may not be 100%, but I mean, we know the upside that he possesses. We see that 5-game stretch that he had, like that first half against Atlanta, he was rocking again, and then he got hurt. But if a guy like Fields, if he's getting double-digit carries again, if they're going to unleash him like they were, I mean, he's got upside as good as anybody else on this slate, and he's literally the guy that can win you a tournament, right? So I do think there's, and also too, using Fields, you probably wouldn't use Montgomery. That gives you a nice little leverage there with that.
You running him naked though, or are you stacking him?
I would probably use Cole Kmet with him, just because Kmet has done well. When Fields had that stretch, Kmet was really kind of coming into his own. And even last week, Kmet saw 6 targets even without Fields. So I think that Kmet would be the ideal stacking partner if you do. And also, too, just because tight end's a wasteland, so it gives you a little bit of an advantage if that does go off. Because other than that, I mean, there's nothing else that you would stack him with from this Chicago offense. Like, I can't trust Chase Claypool against those cornerbacks. No. And then Green Bay, I mean, you're going to run it back either with Aaron Jones or Christian Watson. I mean, it's pretty simple there. I mean,
Watson's
again,
so cheap.
Yeah, I mean, Watson's, his price is not moving. And I mean, Rodgers is hurt, so who knows what type of output he has. But he usually, he's been getting the ball to Watson. Watson's been playing well. And even too, Aaron Jones, I think this sets up really well for a monster game with Aaron Jones. I'm actually happy that Rodgers is active, because I think that is better for the running game. I think believe it or not, I think they would have passed it a little more if Jordan Love was active, was playing, I should say, starting. So I think this sets up really well for Aaron Jones, and he's being very, very overlooked, and he's been playing well. He's significantly outplaying AJ Dillon, and Chicago is one of the worst run defenses in the league. So I think it makes a ton of sense using him this week.
I have an irresponsible amount of Aaron Jones this week. And it's, again, much like with Derrick Henry, when I use Aaron Jones, it doesn't work out, but this is the week, right? No one's talking about him. Rodgers hurt, good matchup against the Bears team that can't stop the run. I think Aaron Jones is such a good play this week. And he's cheap too.
Yeah, he is. For him, hitting his upside, he is. And those are the weeks that Aaron Jones usually goes off. It's when nobody is talking about him.
Yeah, I'm feeling him this week. Moving on, Pittsburgh, Atlanta, Jalen. I'm sorry, you had more to say? Sorry.
No, I was just gonna say Jones is, always that guy that the slate ends and you look back and you say, man, why didn't I play him? Well, that feels like this week.
I'm trying real hard to make sure that I don't say that this week. Pittsburgh, Atlanta. I mean, Jalen Warren was a guy that would look like a good cash play, and then Najee Harris was like, I'm playing, and he has no injury designation, and he's playing. Are we using them? Are we using anyone? Does this game, outside of the Pittsburgh defense that I really like this week, does this game present any? I'll say the optos that I ran, Kenny Pickett showed up a lot, which I don't understand for the life of me.
I mean, I understand it. I mean, Pickett, I think the ceiling for price is there, but I don't think we need to go there on this type of slate. That's the big difference. I mean, unless there were so many of the high-priced guys that you really wanted to jam in, yeah, Pittsburgh can be a very value stack, especially if you just go like Pickens. But again, I don't think you need to go there on this type of slate because you can get the Eagles, Hurts and Brown combined under 10% ownership. Like it's one of those slates where you got a lot of good players and good plays that are going to be very low owned because we finally have a slate with 3 games over 50 points. So it's very easy to get contrarian with good players. They don't have to reach for a Pittsburgh offense type of thing from a stack standpoint. Totally. But I actually do like Najee Harris a lot in this spot. He's starting to look a little better. I think he's over the foot issue that plagued him earlier in the year, and he's getting the work. I mean, his workload is staying there. He's been a little more involved in the passing game of late, and I think this is a very good spot for him. And again, like that's kind of the price range of the running backs where a lot of the ownership is going to focus around, but Najee is not being looked at in there. Because you got Pearson, Pirine, a little bit cheaper than him. You got Montgomery and ETN just above him. So Harris is in the middle of that, and everybody overlooking him because of the other plays at that basically same price.
But you're not going to feel comfortable clicking his name. There's an avenue to click his name, right?
Yeah, I'm not falling over myself to get him in my lineups. But I do think it's a solid play. You just, sometimes the best plays are uncomfortable, but I think there's a lot of reason to like it.
Gotcha. Any reason to like anything from Denver, Baltimore?
No, I mean maybe Gus Edwards, but that's it.
Cool. I'm not even going to waste a play another side of that. We're just going to move on. By the way, I did want to say something about the Pittsburgh game. If you're going to play Pickens, I just don't see why you wouldn't do Mike White, Garrett Wilson for a little bit more money, eat some of that chalk and differentiate elsewhere with like an Aaron Jones. That was my take on that. I completely forgot that take there. Or you play 2 guys from this game. You play Jared Goff and Jameson Williams, which, I like that dart throw a little bit. This is one of the games of the slate. Apparently, somehow Jacksonville-Detroit turned into an absolute banger. I do think this is that game that we look back and go, why was there a 50 total on it? This is 16-13 and everyone looked like crap. But I also think it could be 35-38 and everyone's like, oh, why didn't I have enough of this game? So which side are you on this one?
I think we're going to see a shootout here. I mean, Detroit's always a little different when they're home. Yeah. Goff's best games have come in Detroit last year and this year. And, I mean, last week against Buffalo, he did relatively well. That was, a pretty tough matchup there. I mean, the Green Bay game we kind of throw out, but, I mean, Miami, he did really well at home. The Seattle game, of course, and even the, that Washington game as well. Philly, he was kind of middling a little bit, but, I mean, 3 of his games, he's gotten you there at home.
15 touchdowns at home, 2 touchdowns on the road. He's averaging 30 more yards per game. He's averaging 12 more points per game. It's a whole different world in Detroit.
Yeah, and I do think Jameson Williams can help open things up. I'm not going there. I don't think he's going to play enough. I don't think he's going to see enough work to pay off $4,700. If he was priced at like $3,000, $3,300, I would click him in. But at $4,700, I think he's just a little too pricey for the lack of work he's going to get. But I think the more important thing to Williams being active, I don't think that makes Chark as much in play anymore, because Williams playing will, I think, directly take away from Chark, which I think will will hurt him. And I mean, listen, I'm a Jameson Williams fanboy. I thought the guy was easily the best receiver in the draft. And I mean, it's a shame we haven't seen him play this year because of the injury. But listen, the Lions are, he's their prized possession. They're going to take it slow with him. There's no need to rush it. And the Lions are set up really great in the draft next year too. So they're really building towards the future and doing a really good job at it. So While I'm excited for him, I don't think anybody should really be playing him unless maybe you're making 150 lineups. You put him in 2 in the event that he gets that 70-yard touchdown type of thing.
I'm just saying, very limited snap counts. The same thing we heard about Marquise Brown last week, who ended up with 95% snap share. Now I understand it's very different, and I don't have a lot of Jameson Williams, but I have probably more than 3% Jameson Williams. I do like him as my second piece if I'm stacking from the Detroit side. And I don't have a lot because I think Goff's going to be a little chalkier than I want him to be. But if I am stacking from the Detroit side, I admittedly am using St. Brown and Jameson Williams because I want to catch that 70-yard. I want that 70-yard touchdown. Like, can I dream that he has the Randy Moss against Dallas on Thanksgiving Day, the 3 touchdowns, 140 yards on 3 catches? Like, it's a 1% chance, but if I got him at 2% of my lineups or 5% of my lineups, then I'm way over the field on that if he does pull off a similar game to that. So I assume you like the Jacksonville side from this as well.
I do. I think I prefer the Detroit side, to be honest, because Jacksonville's a lit. I mean, I think the Jacksonville side of the stack is going to be probably the chalkiest stack that you find, and I'm sure there's going to be tons of Kirk and Zay Jones one-offs as well. So I do like it a little more from the Detroit side because Goff will be lower owned. I mean, whichever side you play it from, you're using St. Brown. But also, too, I do think you can be creative in this. I really, really think that that there's an avenue for DeAndre Swift today. I think he's finally healthy. He's been off the injury report. I just think that this is going to be the game that we see more involvement. He got 8 targets last week, which is a great sign. And the Jaguars have allowed the 4th most catches to running backs this year. So I think Swift is going to be a very creative way to play this. And as we've seen, in some of those shootouts, Swift can get a lot of work. Swift can get a lot in the passing game, and he's got the ability to break big plays as well. So I think Swift makes a lot of sense.
Just doing another quick check since I didn't see inactives from the Jacksonville side. I assume ATN's playing and Darrell Henderson is out, but just doing some double checking.
Yes, yeah, that is
okay. That is fact. Okay,
yeah.
That helps. I think we've done that game pretty well. Cleveland, Houston, we're not going all in on Deshaun Watson here, right? Like, you beat Houston.
No, I think I did see, I don't know if it was Schefter or someone else, but I did see something that they plan on bringing Watson along a little slower, that he's not going to come out and sling it all over the place, which, I mean, makes a ton of sense. The guy hasn't played meaningful football in 2 years. And also, too, I mean, you beat Houston on the ground, and Cleveland is a run-first team still. So I think that, I mean, listen, I hope that there are a lot of Deshaun Watson stacks out there because I think it will just take away that part of the field. I just don't think that they're going to have to, I don't think they're going to pass it a lot. They're not going to need to, and I just don't think that they will. So, yeah, I mean, maybe some of the receiving options are better as one-offs. Like Cooper maybe is priced a little too much if they're not going to throw it that much. People-Jones probably makes more sense. Because I very much think he can have like that Will Fuller type of role that was very successful with Watson. And then, yeah, I mean, Harrison Bryant's going to be a solid play, just dirt cheap tight end type of thing.
Let's go. Let's go. 8 targets for Harrison Bryant, baby.
Yeah. And then, I mean, the Houston side, Nico Collins is probably, going to be the most liked play. I don't know how I feel about Pierce. I'm like kind of torn on it. I like him. He's going to get the work. Cleveland's a really bad run D, but at the same time, I mean, with the way Houston has struggled, it's ruined Pierce these last couple of weeks. And even that, like I don't know. I really don't know what upside he has. I mean, he's got 2 games over 20 points, like his highest output of 28, is because he had 6 receptions for 8 yards. I mean, that kind of put him over a little.
And he also busted a 75-yard touchdown, right? He doesn't get that 75-yard touchdown. It's like it's a meh kind of game.
Yeah, I mean, he's solid. He's a good player, but he's just very much a plotter right now because the Texans' offense is so bad. So
I think this game. garners far more attention than it deserves, even from me. Like, I'm playing more of it than I probably should. Not a ton, but I think this is another one of those games that's like, we were talking about it because of the Deshaun factor, but like, these are not good football teams.
Yeah, and that's the whole thing. People looking at it because of Watson, and Watson had, I think he was like the third best fantasy quarterback in 2020. Like, he had a great season, but again, this guy's not going to come out and throw it 40 times just because he's Deshaun Watson. That's not the reality of it.
And he looked like crap in preseason too. Like, he did not play well in preseason.
Oh yeah, I got to imagine there's a ton of rust there, and of course in Houston, the nerves. It's just just doesn't set up very well for him today. I don't think.
Oh, he's in Houston. He'll probably be very relaxed. No, that wasn't okay. Oh man, he is not a good human being. Allegedly.
Yeah.
I am excited for what the future of Donovan Peoples-Jones, especially coming off that big Michigan high yesterday. Yes, I'm going to play the college narrative there, but like, I don't know. I'm not. If I'm playing anyone in that game, it's Chubb, and I've got Bryant, a lot of Bryant, because I just want to spend down at tight end all day long.
Oh yeah, but if you're not using,
I do have some Pierce. I do have some Pierce. Like, I think just in case, because Cleveland's so bad against the run, but we'll see. How about this Jets game? We've got to talk to Jets. Like, they're a legitimate team worth talking about now. It's so foreign to me that we're like, I've got legitimate Mike White stacks. I'm so into the Jets that I just realized I can do this. In my Scott Fishbowl league, I spent my last of my fab in the playoffs, made it to the second round of Fishbowl. How are you doing in Fishbowl? Are you in it?
I'm not in it this year.
I thought you were in it this year. Who's in it this year?
I don't know.
Is it Sean? Someone's in it. I could have sworn. I thought you were in it. Sorry, didn't mean to pour salt in that wound. But in the Fishbowl, I'm in the second round of the playoffs, right? And I spent all my fab to get Mike White, is because I went 0 QB, as we talked about on the show, and I've been rolling Daniel Jones and Justin Fields all year with a little bit of Davis Mills and some Andy Dalton. So that worked out real well because I have Jonathan Taylor, Jamar Chase, CeeDee Lamb, Tyreek Hill. Like, my team's freaking loaded. But Fields got hurt last week, and I needed Jonathan Taylor to do what he did on Monday night. Otherwise, I wasn't making it past the second round of the playoffs. And 90% of the people who made the first round made the second round. So I was almost not making it, even though I had a really good score to start the season. But I'm in the second round, and so I've got this quarterback conundrum now. I've got Fields, Danny Dimes, and Mike White, and I think I'm sitting Danny Dimes in this case. Like, I really think I'm sitting Dimes, and that leads into this conversation. I've got a powerful Jet stack this week. I'm rolling Mike White, Zonovan Knight, and Tyler Conklin for me in Scott Fishbowl, which I would not recommend doing that in fantasy in DFS, but I would roll Mike White with Garrett Wilson and Tyler Conklin. Tell me I'm crazy. It's a long way to get to this point, but we're there. Like,
I
don't a nut stack, is it?
No, I don't think it's crazy at all. Listen, the Jets offense is different with Mike White. It's shouldn't even say with Mike White, without Zach Wilson.
Let's not forget Joe Flacco was awesome when he played. Like, if you look at Flacco's numbers,
hold on,
he's really good.
I have this stack. Let me see if I can find it. But while I'm looking,
is it the Garrett stack? What he does with and without Zach Wilson? Because it's a crazy stat.
It's just like the overall the Jets passing game without.
Yeah. So while you're looking that up, I will say I was listening to the radio, as you know. I listen and I read a lot of other content. People are like, "Oh, Mike White's not going to do it again." Well, why the hell not? Like, he did it last year. When he played last year, he put up good numbers. He had monster games. Why can't Mike White put up 20 to 25 fantasy points this week? I don't understand. I get it. He's not Patrick Mahomes. Fair enough. But he can beat Derek Carr, right?
Yeah.
He can put up these numbers. So why are we not using them?
Oh, yeah. No, absolutely. And so here, this is it. So since the beginning of 2021, when Zach Wilson starts, the Jets offense averages 165 pass yards a game. Without Zach Wilson starting, they're averaging 319.9 pass yards per game. That's 25 yards a game more than what the Chiefs do, who are second best in that time frame.
And that's not one or two game sample size either. That's like 6-7 games. Like, the Jets are a different offense with a real quarterback.
Yeah, it is. And for Mike White's not the most talented quarterback in the world, but White
Needs to be.
has spike weeks. I mean, he had 2 games over 20 points last year. He had 2 games where I think he had like 5 and 6 total points. And then he had 27 points last week. I mean, listen, the guy's not going to do what he did last week every week, but he can do it. He can get there. And the Jets run game is, they're down right now. I mean, yeah, they got James Robinson. I mean, Knight looked solid last week, but you're talking about, 3 backups in there. Like, it's not Michael Carter. It's not Breece Hall in there right now.
But the Jets, but people forget the Jets is they've got good wide receivers. Garrison's a stud. Corey Davis is an underrated wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3. Elijah Moore is so talented.
Yeah.
He was more talented. They're saying of the 3 wide receivers that came out of Mississippi, DK Metcalf, Elijah Moore, and AJ Brown, he was the most talented of the 3. Denzel Mims has looked like an NFL wide receiver. And don't forget Braxton Berrios is like this little jitterbug Jakeem Grant kind of a wide receiver who can make plays. They've got 5 wide receivers, and Conklin is a decent tight end. Like, they've got weapons. So the only thing that's been missing is the quarterback. It's not like everything changed. You need a guy who can distribute the ball. You need a Brad Johnson game manager type who can go out there and get the ball to the guys who can then make plays. And we know the Jets receivers can make plays.
Yeah, and I also too. I really like the Jets defense. I think because Darisaw is out for the Vikings, and that's not going to be good for them against the pass rush. I mean, the Jets actually do a great job of getting to the quarterback without blitzing. I think they have one of the lower blitz rates in all the NFL, and they got 34 sacks on the year. Like they do well. They're a solid defense, and I think they're kind of mispriced at 2,600 because just because of the Vikings. But I think this is the type of game where you can see Kirk Cousins struggle very easily if the pressure is there, and if Sauce is up to the challenge with Justin Jefferson. I mean, listen, I'm not saying Jefferson's going to go 2 for 24, but if he can slow him and Jefferson goes 8 for 80, let's say, the Jets are in a good spot, I think. But yeah, if you're running those Mike White stacks, I do think TJ Hawkinson's the best bring back option there, because Hawkinson's been extremely involved in this pass game. Quite frankly, it's a shame Irv Smith has been hurt because they obviously want to use the tight end, and Hawkinson's a really good player, and the Jets have struggled lately against the tight end. So I think you could see Hawkinson do very, very well. He's priced up a little bit, so it makes it a little difficult potentially for roster configurations. But if you're doing a jet stack, you're already getting a lot of value there. So spending up a little bit at the tight end isn't that hard with it.
I agree. And Justin Jefferson can still go get his. Like, I have no problem playing Jefferson this week. Because I've heard, again, in some of the stuff I've been listening to on the radio, they think that Sauce might end up covering Thielen more than Jefferson. So I think you can play Jefferson as a run back. I don't love stacking the game necessarily from the Minnesota side. I think the Jets provide more value. But with the value you're getting on the Jets side, a potentially low-owned Jefferson, could bust the slate. But I don't think you need Jefferson. I think I'm just hard-pressed to think that just because of the way the Jets defense has played, that you can see Jefferson get you 36 points, 40 points, which kind of what you need. Yeah, Jefferson could have a solid game, get 23 points, but at his price tag, that's not doing it for you. I almost hope he has a half decent game. Keep the Jets throwing.
That too. Yeah,
Jets are gonna blow out the Vikings, but moving on to the New York team or the New Jersey team, Washington, New York. I kind of like Brian Robinson though. Antonio Gibson playing kind of kills that a little bit. Is there anything we like in this game?
Maybe Terry McLaurin, just because he's getting a ton of targets with Heineke, and it is a pretty good matchup. I mean, the Giants' defense is slowly starting to crack. So I mean, not that the Washington offense is anything special, but I mean, McLaurin is getting enough targets. I think he can beat that secondary a bit. Other than that, I'm not really interested in much. This is probably going to be a super slow-paced, boring game. If you're spending a little bit on defense, I think the Commanders can make sense. The pass rush is pretty, has been decent. But yeah, that's kind of it.
Yeah, it's a pretty ugly game. I do think of Brian Robinson, Commanders defensive stack, especially like there's so few spend down options at running back. At 5,300, I think you could use Robinson, but that game blows. Seattle and the Rams. I like this game, at least from one side. I think the Seattle side is pretty in this game. What are your thoughts on this? Now we're entering that 4:00 slate where that's where we want players this week. 4:00 this week.
I think there's a lot to like with Seattle. I mean, the Rams, I think, are officially waving the white flag, putting Stafford on IR. I think Aaron Donald seems to have given up. He's missing this game. They're missing their other starting D tackle. And I mean, they still have talent on defense. I just don't know how hard guys like Jalen Ramsey and Bobby Wagner realistically are going to play. You know, especially Ramsey. Ramsey just seems like the guy that, the team's crap. He's just going to kind of run through the motions but give up. So I really do like the Seattle side. Yeah, I mean, I like Geno. I like the idea of stacking. I think Kenneth Walker is set up really well also. I even think, too, I don't think it's the craziest thing. You can try to play the, all touchdown onslaught stack. You can use Geno with Ken Walker, and you can add in one of the wide receivers if you want, or you can just go the quarterback running back and, hopefully Walker gets 2 touchdowns, Geno throws for 2, and it goes to, Marquise Goodwin and whatever tight end, and you kind of hit some success there.
Love for a run back on the Rams side. I just because of the price, again, I've ran some Kyren Williams because I'm going to make Kyren Williams happen at some point this year. I've been playing him for how many weeks in a row now? And I think Van Jefferson as well could be just for the deep shot potential. Walford is starting for them, and he's a little bit better of a thrower than Perkins. You're not see as much running. And, listen, Jefferson's getting some targets, and he's scored 2 of the last 3 weeks. And, I mean, if you wanted a run back, it's there, right? But we don't need to force it.
I mean, it's there. I wouldn't do it, though, either. I mean, the Rams can put up 6 points. I mean, I don't even know what to think with that offense. But, maybe, Kyren, fine. Van, fine. I get it. But I probably wouldn't go there. I'd rather get better spots at that same price point.
Yes. Miami, San Francisco. This game going totally under the radar. And I'm not sure it shouldn't be under the radar. One of my favorite value plays of the week is in this game, by the way. I'm going to jump right to that and then ask your opinion. I'm kind of digging Trent Sherfield a little bit. First of all, it's a revenge game for 49er. 5 targets each of the last 2 weeks, running a lot of routes, getting a lot of looks on those routes, and only $3,300. He's a nice, low-cost, late-game option, again, in a nice revenge spot. But obviously, I'm not forcing Sherfield into my lineups, but if I want to spend up elsewhere and I don't want to go 100% Sky Moore, Sherfield is a guy that I'm considering. Obviously, Juwan Jennings as well. If Deebo Samuel ends up being out, he makes some sense. There's the target volume is kind of there, though I do think the game sets up better for Kittle. Where are you at on this game, or are you not overdoing it because there's so many better options?
Well, it's tough because you got. I think this is the epitome of the overlooked game that can go one of 2 ways, right? This game can be 13-10 because of San Francisco's defense, or if it's one of those games where San Fran's defense just isn't there, I think this game can go for 60 points as well. And there's a lot of unique ways that you can play it. And actually, I was looking at this. I really like your Trent Sherfield idea because the 49ers are most susceptible versus the pass in the slot, and Sherfield's 42% of his targets have come out of the slot. So that's big for him. That's a really important thing here in a tough matchup with that San Fran D. So that's also too, like, I like Tyreek Hill here because he gets a lot of his work out of the slot as well. So I think Hill and Sherfield make some sense, but Sherfield obviously more of like that lower owned. I wouldn't, if I'm stacking Tua, I don't think I would use Sherfield in that per se. But yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot.
He's more of a here.
Yeah. So it's gonna be interesting. Like if I probably will stack this game, and I'll probably do it from the San Francisco side, because the Dolphins still have a solid run defense, and I think with Elijah Mitchell out, I think we see the creativity and the usage of McCaffrey go up a bit as well. I mean, if you remember, I don't know if you saw what I wrote, but McCaffrey's one big game with San Fran happened to be when Elijah Mitchell was out before he came back. And then since Mitchell has been back,
Yes.
McCaffrey's usage has been down a bit, and they haven't been as creative with him. Everybody's looking, all right, well, who's going to get Mitchell's carries this week? Is it going to be Davis Price? Is it going to be, I'm drawing a blank. Jordan Mason. What guy is it going to be? And maybe the easy answer is, well, nobody. It's going to, maybe a little more goes to McCaffrey, and they use him more in the passing game, and they get creative. Maybe it's that type
McCaffrey's
of
at 5% this week.
Yeah, so
he's at 5%. Another one of those weeks where you're like, oh, like we did with Taylor a few weeks back. Oh, let's just play the best guy. Like just play the best guy.
But the most difficult part as well is I legitimately think on the San Fran side, all of McCaffrey, Debo, Ayuk, and Kittle are very much in play because they all have good matchups, and I think that's the hardest part. It's who do you play? That's the most difficult thing here.
Simple. This is a simple one, Gutta. You run just a mini stack of McCaffrey, Sherfield, and you find your full stack elsewhere.
Okay.
Am I starting to build our stream lineup? I sure am. I sure am. I think that's probably the best way, right? Because I don't know if running the quarterbacks is the best way. And you're right. Who do you play? Well, just take the safe route, play McCaffrey, play the best guy, play the value guy, and find similar plays cheaper elsewhere than like Hills and Ayuk and Kittle, since we just don't know.
Yeah.
Hey, this is a game we could find some love in. How about Kansas City, Cincinnati? This should be the game of the week. Is there a way that we shouldn't be playing this game? Because listen, you're playing Burrow, you're playing Chase, you're playing Higgins, you're playing Kelsey, you're playing maybe Pacheco, you're playing Mahomes. Like there, you could play Juju, you could play Valdez-Scantling. He got more targets. I love Sky Moore this week. I can make a case for Justin Watson. Like what would be the wrong way to play this, or is like just not playing it the wrong way to play this?
I don't think there's a wrong way to play it. I mean, unfortunately, of course, first inclination earlier in the week with some of the earlier ownership projections, the running backs were making for great leverage plays, but with Mixon out, P. Ryan's like close to 40% ownership right now projected. So that makes it difficult to use that as the leverage. Almost the passing game almost has become more of the leverage now, even though Burrow, Chase, and Higgins are all looking to be over 15% owned. So you're probably going to see a lot of that from a stack side too, which I attempted to build a Burrow, Chase, Higgins, Kelsey stack, and it's like damn near impossible. So
it's doable.
It's doable, but it's hard. So yeah, I think you got to be a little creative with this one, but you can. But I don't think there is a wrong way to play it. And there it is.
There that is. There that is. I got Aaron Jones in that lineup too, but I also have to play Zonovan Knight and Juwan Jennings and Sky Moore. So we gotta play.
Take on a little bit. But yeah, I mean I think my biggest hang up here with this game specifically is Samaje Perine. Because I actually really do like the play. Kansas City has struggled a bit against running backs, and they've allowed 71 catches to running backs this year. That's second most in the NFL. Well, I guess technically third most because the Raiders and Titans both have allowed 72. But they allow a ton of catches to running back, and that's kind of Perine's specialty. But again, almost at that ownership rate, even if he doesn't come in at 40, if he comes in at 25 to 30, using that as your only piece in a lineup, it's tough. I mean, I know the salary is right, but it's just hard.
It's not. Like, I think he's too expensive.
Oh, really? See, I don't think he's
like this free square. I don't trust backup running backs. I don't think Perine's as good as we've seen the last couple of weeks. Like, I just don't. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't.
I mean, but
to me, it's such an easy fade this week. It's such an easy fade. Who do you do it against? Tennessee, who gives up a ton of catches to running backs, and Pittsburgh, who's not wonderful. And really, Mixon was in a lot of that game. It was just he wasn't the starter really in that game. Perine. So
that game was a little bit of a fluke with the touchdowns.
Yeah, that's what I'm
too,
saying. So it's like I don't know if he can replicate that again, especially in 6K. 5,200, sure. 6K seems like you can do a lot more at 6K at the running back position this week. If we go down, it just tournament wise, I mean, Jamal Williams, I think, is safer. Najee safer. Damian Pierce, I think, is interesting. Talked about Swift. I just don't see why. I don't know. We're going to disagree on Pierre on here. We're definitely going to disagree a little bit. Kent has some questions about this game, though, Gutta. He wants to know Burrow at QB, Higgins as a wide receiver. Do you want Kelsey or Chase in the flex?
Oh,
and he does have Sky Moore as well in this. He does have Sky Moore in this stack.
I would go with Chase.
Me too. I'm going on. If I'm stacking Cincy, I'm going all in. I want to double stack on Cincy, and I want at least one run back. I'm double running back in a lot of it because I want to offset the cost of Kelsey, so I'm doing it with Sky Moore. But like that's how I'm running this game as best I can. I'm running 5 pieces, 4 pass catchers along with Burrow. I think that's the way to do it. Last game, Chargers Vegas. What do we like? Everything, nothing. Not nothing.
Yeah,
definitely.
I mean,
nothing.
Another one, kind of everything. It's yeah. I mean,
how do you feel about the Vegas side in this game? What are your thoughts on the Vegas? What I'm interested in. What are your thoughts on this side? Carr's been playing decently lately.
Carr has, and he's probably he's kind of cheap too.
Cheap.
Yeah, I mean, listen, if he gives you like that's the whole thing, right? Carr. I think his max is like these past 2 weeks of what we saw from him, 22 points and 23 points. I think that's kind of his ceiling. Like, we're not going to see – he's not going to get 25. He's not going to get 30 points. I don't think he has that type of ceiling in him.
Lock it in now because we said it won't happen. Lock it in.
Yeah, right? But I like the Herbert side. I mean, again, there's an argument for Carr as well. I do think there is. I mean, I love the running backs here. And even for the receivers, to me, it's much more Devontae Adams and Josh Palmer. I guess a little bit DeAndre Carter as well, because he's actually played pretty decently lately. He's got 10 targets last week. I mean, he's been involved. So at his price point, I think it's a fine salary saving option. But my preference is Adams and Palmer, especially Palmer from the Charger side. And then
for Keenan Allen just amuses me.
He doesn't
on a weekly basis. It amuses me how little you like Keenan Allen.
You know what? He doesn't have ceiling though. Last week
I don't disagree.
Last week he scored a touchdown in the first quarter, and I was like, oh crap, here we go. I'm shitting on Keenan Allen. He's gonna have a 35-point game, and then he did nothing the rest of the game. He got 15 points after that. And he had a first quarter touchdown. Like
that's
looked like
Keenan Allen for you.
Yeah. So it's just, I'd rather Palmer's got more upside. I'd rather go there. And I think too, I think Foster Moreau is a solid option here as well. He's getting targets. He scored a couple of touchdowns. The Chargers are susceptible versus the tight end. So I think that's a solid spot for Moreau as well, because tight end is kind of. I mean, it's always a wasteland, but even this week, like in that middle spot, there's just like. Not nothing great. Like everybody's either going up or going down. I don't think there's any in between. I think the in between can give you a little bit of an advantage.
We're on this Bayou as a potential stack. It's this speaks to your Palmer, Love, and Al. Hey, what about Herbert, Eckler, Palmer?
Very much so.
Since Eckler is so heavy into those, that's the way you like to play this.
Yeah, I would be very comfortable doing that.
Do we want to run this as our stack? Do we want to see if we can make this for our stream stack, or is this going to get too expensive too quickly?
Well, yeah, I mean, the only route we could go, we would have to use Moreau as the run back. So
I think we could. Like I don't see why we wouldn't.
I mean, if we're set on McCaffrey, we would almost have to.
Well, I don't think we have to be set on McCaffrey. I just thought that was really the way way to play, and it keeps the ownership low. And let's see where we're 300. Like, we can play around here. Like, we don't have to run McCaffrey, but I like this. I like all these afternoon games. I like getting the Jets defense in there. I don't know. Does this work for you? We haven't hit yet on one of these, so not big at least. So it's not that it matters. Like, if it were me, I wouldn't even play the run back game at this point. I would hit up, like, I don't know, Garrett Wilson and Christian Watson, but that could be almost too chalky.
I don't think so.
Like a lower price guy.
Wouldn't be worried about the chalk with those two guys. Yeah, they'll be a little popular, but the rest of the lineup, everybody's like, going to be under 10%.
My concern is too, this is coming together too easily. Does this work for you? Should we be looking in a different direction? Are we happy here?
No, I do like it.
All right, entering it, lock it in. Watch this tournament be full though. This is for the this is the play action, so it's not a single entry, and we're shooting for that 100K. Of course, it's going to be full, and I'm going to be sad. All right, Gutta, we're running late, so let's do it. What's the one thing? What's your one big thing for this week that or multiple things? Give me your big predictions for the week. Your bold predictions.
Let's see. Chubb and Eckler, top 3 running backs this week.
Wow. You are really on a limb there. You got something a little bolder for me? You got something that's not, some a bitch to think is full. I hate it. I hate when they're full. It's fine. We're just going to do 75,000, so it's like a $7,000 top prize. We'll live.
All right, something bolder. Isaiah Pacheco, 2 touchdowns.
Look at bold. Ooh, that's crazy freaking bold. All right, let's see. My bold. 12 points each for Trent Sherfield and Sky Moore. Is that bold enough? Is 12 points enough, or do I need to go to 15 for?
No, that's a solid 4x for them. That's good. So and
12 points each.
One more news nugget. Schefter's just reporting Josh Jacobs is going to play.
Woo! All right, one less thing to worry about. So yeah, and I think my other bold prediction, which since they don't come true that often, this scares me. But I'm going to cash this week. We're going to cash. We're not just going to cash. We're going to cash easily this week.
Yeah.
We're going to wish we played a lot more cash this week. Because we're beating the optos. We're figuring it out. This is what we do here at Heat Map Fantasy Sports. We try to beat the optos. We try to find another direction. And come check us out. At Bankster17 over on Twitter. Pinned tweet. Get you the link. $3.99 a week. Get you access to everything that we do, all the sports that we do, all the money that we make. And you can become part of the Comma Club as well, where you're hitting your $1,000 wins. We just have a tendency to get there. For Michael Gutta at the Big Gutta, I am Doug Shane at Bankster17. This is Heat Map Fantasy Sports Live, and we will see you next week. Good luck.